These days, most winter pike fishing takes place in lakes and ponds. Often the fish are caught at long range by anglers using static baits. Although this method can be very successful, the most exciting parts of catching pike, the take and the early stages of the fight, often take place out of sight of the angler. But for some anglers, the rivers of southern England provide excellent piking, both in terms of quantity and quality. Rivers have their own special attractions, not least of which are the beautiful surroundings and the action which often takes place at close quarters.
So that's why we've come here today, to do a spot of pike fishing. It's middle of November, a dull and overcast day, it's very, very mild, so it looks like the perfect day for piking. Let's get cracking, eh? Yeah.
My 10-year-old son Andrew has come with us today, as, like many youngsters, he'd like to catch a pike, preferably a big one.
Come on then, Andrew!
For the newcomer, or still water piker, rivers present a new set of challenges to overcome. We haven't come with a camera crew, as we do all our own filming, and this video is basically the record of a single afternoon's pike fishing.
Piking in rivers is a mobile business, and often the most productive method is to try each swim in turn until feeding pike are found. The rod I'm using is actually my bass fishing rod. It has a test curve of about 2.5 pounds and is 11 feet long. By using an artificial lure such as a spoon, it's easy to cover all the likely spots, even the slacks on the far bank. Coupled with a fixed spool reel and 15-pound line, this allows me to cast a 5-inch spoon and, more important, to set a fairly large treble hook in the mouth of a taking pike. All artificials have the disadvantage that the pike won't hang on to them for long, although they will often have several goes.
Ooh! Missed him. Pike.
At least it shows the fish are on today, doesn't
Yeah, he does. Was that a third cast?
Eh?
Third cast?
Yeah. Very different. You really want to be casting over by them trees there. This wind shifting the spoon about. That fish is about 7 or 8 pounds.
Yeah.
There he is. Oh, missed it again. Spinning also allows you to cover each swim in a methodical manner. By varying the speed of line recovery and using the flow of the river, it's possible to give the lure a range of actions. When you're spinning with an artificial lure, the idea is to con the pike into thinking that the spoon or plug is an easy meal. It should be retrieved as slowly as possible and as close to the holding spots as you can. No need to cast far, just make sure the pike have plenty of time to take. Floating mats of weed and leaves that collect in places where there is little flow consistently produce pike. The idea is to imitate an injured fish. It often pays to work the lure sink and draw, and with practice it's possible to manoeuvre the spoon right in front of a fish's nose. Yeah. Not a very big one. Yeah, the other one that was here was much bigger fish than that.
Shall I get the net in there?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Just lay the net in the water, sort of down in front of me, and keep. Try and keep it horizontal if you can. So twist it round so it's lying flat. Don't go too near the edge. No, the other way up. Hang on, that's the fish is going to be in the net. Look, like that. Like that. All right.
Yeah.
Just keep it there like that.
Yeah.
Right, don't lift him on it, just drag him. That's it. How's that? Only trouble with using a net, you tend to get tangled.
Yeah. Sometimes it's caught in there. Got some teeth that one.
Let's try it. Lively one, Andrew.
Yeah.
That's a nice pike. Now you can see that pike eat a lot of fish, and they have a good big. Whoops! If you keep them still, they have a good big mouth to catch them with, full of teeth. Look, see? See? And what they are, they're what they call lurking predators, and they have all the fins at the back. Look, see these big fins at the back, so that they can make a sudden rush to catch the little fish that they eat. And they're very sort of streamlined fish, aren't they? See, they have the nose sort of streamlined, so they can make this tremendous rush after the food. And they're well camouflaged, just like the light coming down through the weeds, you know, all these yellow spots and green background. And what they like to do is hide in among the weeds and then rush out to grab the little fish as they swim past. But I guess we better put him back, haven't we?
Yeah.
Oops, it is.
One good fish.
Encouraged by Mike's success, I decided to try a float fish sprat. No matter how carefully I call these up, they always end up in a bullseye.
Yeah, same with me.
with a combination of swivels and trebles. And
I guess if you were really well organised, you'd have them all on tidy little sort of winders or something.
polystyrene and winders and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I guess I'm too old for that now.
There we go. It's tempting just to give it a yank and then it all kinks. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I always make up a few traces at home. The first thing to do is to thread a swivel on the end of your trace wire. Most of my traces are made up from 24 inches of 15-pound braided stainless steel wire. I don't use knots or crimps, but prefer to twist the wire back on itself using a pair of artery forceps. But make sure you lock the forceps tightly. Then just trim off any loose ends. Next, slide a piece of silicone tubing onto the trace wire. Thread the wire through the first treble 3 times, taking care not to kink it. Now take 3 or 4 turns around the shank of the hook. And leave about 6 inches of spare wire push the tubing over the hook to hold it in place. Thread the second treble so that there is about 3 inches between the hooks. This will then be suitable for a 6-inch bait. Twist the wire back on itself again using the forceps. If you've not used barbless hooks, simply flatten the barbs, leaving one on each treble to hold the bait. Then it's just a question of tying the trace to the line with a blood knot.
Mr. Untidy, I am afraid.
I find that a small piece of rubber band looped around the main line makes a good adjustable stop knot. Now fix your bait to the trace, either head up like mine or tail up if you prefer. It helps if the bait is partially frozen. Bearing in mind that pike can be caught in amongst the marginal reeds, approach as quietly as possible and keep back as far as you can from the edge. In most rivers, it's very effective to fish a natural bait under a float. This method allows you to fish hard up against areas of cover where pike tend to lie. A float also gives the bait a bit of movement and shows the instant that you have a take, although sometimes there are more dramatic signs of a bite.
That didn't take long, Steve, did it? You can get the net to your dad, Andrew.
Okay.
Bloody hell. It's a big one.
Is it a bigger fish, Steve?
It's a bigger fish, yeah.
That could be the one I saw the other day.
Tell you what, come and put that stuff up. Pushing under these rafts of weed is difficult to get the fish out.
Yeah. Are you going to try and get him down to the bank there?
Try and get him to overhand.
Yeah.
Sink the net in the water.
Just like you did before.
That's it. That's
Just hold it still, don't try and do anything.
Bank. Oh, he's well, it's a trip of the pool now. Oh, God. You get that. Go length of the fish.
Just hold the net still, Andrew.
Shoot off that screen now.
Take your time, Steve, there's no rush.
I'll try and walk it back to you, alright, Andrew? Stay put. Sink the net deep. No, lift it up, quick. There you go. Easy. Lovely. Come on. Oh, he's not huge.
But you weighed it, son.
Not a bad fish.
There you are. Yeah. Big old 20-pounder there.
No, never mind. Just
There we are.
life.
You've unhooked yourself. I was using Barbara's trebles there.
Yeah.
One barb on one of the hooks.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think it weighs, Steve?
Nothing.
Well, it's a biggish fish, isn't it?
Quite thick set.
Well in the teens, isn't it?
Well, I thought it was about 14.
Yeah.
14.
Superb.
Back as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Sorry? Oh, in a minute.
Well, that's two in 20 minutes. That's not too bad, is it?
I'll watch it later.
Of course, they don't always go back according to plan.
Mike,
Yeah.
are there lots of pike in the river?
Yeah, actually, there's one about every 10 yards of river. Most of them are very small, you know, only about sort of this size. That's most of them are like that. So the ones we catch are the biggest ones that are there, really. Scientific research has shown that in a river like this, small pike outnumber larger fish. In fact, in an average mile of river, there could be 100 pike of less than 3 pounds and only about 10 double-figure fish.
Try not to pull it too tight. That's it. Lovely.
Is it all right?
Okay. Wind down a little bit more then, Andrew. Just a little bit. Sit lower the rod and then pull the rod back up. only just hooked.
Good news.
See, only just hooked. Little fish. There we are.
Well done, Andrew.
I think he was rather eager to get back that one.
Ooh, that was a fish. Did you see it?
I didn't know. It might come out on the film, I don't know.
He hit it right at the top end of the...
Did he?
When searching the likely lies for pike, you can get a few surprises.
Oh, there he is. He's on. Just jack. Oh, salmon.
In the early winter, salmon preparing to spawn will hit a big spoon in
read it.
defence of their territory.
Plunge into depth here. Yep, so easy. Easier said than done getting this in the net on my own. It's gonna be. Well, even when you want to pike, you don't know.
Don't lose my bloody net.
Go in the net, you pig. Well, I've got it all but in the net here.
Shut the rod down.
Yeah.
Have you lost it?
I have it in my grass. I've got to try and get out of these bushes to do something with
I'll get ready with this
it. Like the Mato Grosso, this place. Put Eatman in the river, you know. I think he thinks it's another. Probably thinks it's another salmon. Well, perhaps I'd have been better without the net. A bit of slack.
What's this one? What colour is one?
The thing to do is get the fish back as quick as you can.
As it was mid-November and the close season for salmon, we were anxious to return the fish as quickly as possible, even if it was a little unceremonious.
Andrew was keen to have another go with the float gear, so we returned to the big eddy where we had had the first two fish.
They're most likely to be.
Well, there's several places on the river where the fish are likely to be, but during the winter they're normally in the places where it's easiest for them to find food and also to lie up, you know, so they're not using too much energy because they don't like using energy in the winter. So the places where there's very little flow is the best places to fish, on the bends and the corners like this.
What's the best bait to use?
Well, you can either use a live fish under a float, but not everybody likes doing that. It's called live baiting, you know, but what you're doing now is you're probably using a fish that is natural to the river, maybe a dace or a roach, so the fish that the pike is likely to eat anyway. Or you could use a dead fish. You could use even sea fish for that, things like sprats and herrings, or an artificial fish like a spoon or a plug. But either way, you know, sometimes one type of method will catch the pike, and other times they won't. So you've just got to try, really. You try the different methods and see which one works. You've got a bite. Your fish. Don't get too much.
Well, it doesn't pull him in.
Keep the rod up.
Keep a rod up.
Hold on tight.
Is it a decent one, Steve?
Not bad fish. Yeah, you're running out of the bank now. Just hold it still. That's it. Just hold it. Let it pull against you. Get him over this way, can you? That's it. Now lift him up. Lift him up. Lift him up if you can. That's right. Now walk backwards.
Well, I should think that's your biggest fish so far, Andrew, is it?
Definitely, it's the biggest fish I've ever caught in my life. Honestly. Can we take a photo of this one?
Yeah.
These are.
Fish again, that.
Which one do you think is the biggest? This one or?
Don't know. It's not bad size fish then. Pick that up. Hang on a minute.
He nearly pulled you in, that one.
Yeah. I'm so exhausted.
Right then. Nice big smile. Nice big smile. Okay, right, so bye bye fish then.
Bye bye fish.
Bye bye pike.
Bye bye. Big fat bloke.
There it goes then. That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah. Nice one.
Well done. Well done.
Perhaps the hardest winter condition to overcome is when the river is in flood. In fact, it can be sometimes difficult enough to find the river. But even in the worst conditions, once the water begins to clear, the pike will feed. Needless to say, extreme care should be exercised when fishing a flooded river, and never fish alone, and always use a net handle or similar to test for deeper water. Under these conditions, the pike will move into areas which afford them shelter from the main currents. So it's often best to fish the mouths of ditches and marginal slats or bays.
It's a bit wet, Steve, isn't it?
Windy.
Yeah, and windy. Yeah. Where would you expect them to be then, Steve, when it's like this?
We're along this edge really.
Yeah.
The river's flowing that way. the eddy's taking the float bait back up this way.
Yeah. Decent fish, Steve, is it?
I'm surprised they all swim upstream, you know. Instead of using
Yeah.
the current, they actually swim against the current.
Yeah.
Only power in these fish, incredible though. Play him into the field, you know.
Looks like it.
Here he comes.
Oh, nice fish, Steve.
Love you.
That's a cracker, that, mate.
Yeah. There we go.
Superb, mate.
Lovely winter pike. As you can see, caught in flood conditions. I don't think you could get more flooded than this.
No, certainly couldn't.
There we are. Unhooker. Back. Fair old set of choppers on that one.
Certainly are. We've got a little bristly teeth in the roof of the mouth.
Yeah. And on the tongue.
Yeah, nothing's going to get away once he gets gripped by that, is it?
Now, you know, hooker. We want to wait. God, that's when he's well hooked. And usually that was on the barbed hook. The bait was held on.
Yeah, it must have come out the bait. And
Oh,
right.
there it goes.
Ah, it's easy enough, isn't it?
Yeah. There she goes.
Fantastic.
Shortly afterwards, we were joined by our mate Steve Hill. At least we weren't the only ones mad enough to venture out on a day like this. Mike suggested to Hilly that he might like to try a bit further downstream, by a large bed of sedge, and it wasn't long before he was into a fish.
Good fish, Steve?
It's going, yeah. Yeah, get out of the weeds. Yeah, I'll just hold it there a minute.
Very soft this time of year. What was that? Along by the edge?
Yeah, I hooked it just next to them weeds. Look, shot out to the middle. But it's going, it's great. Not bad. Come on, come on, come on. I think I'm winning. Yeah, he's coming then. He's coming. Just hold it
That's
there
a
as
nice
well,
fish, isn't
yeah.
it?
Yes. Oh, he's off again, off again. Where's that net?
Mike, you got a net!
Well, just holding him in the current there for a moment. A little tricky. Oh yeah, it's not a bad one. I can't go too far out. Let you go. Yeah. Oh, nice fish.
fat thing.
She's in good nick, isn't she?
Yeah, yeah, the size of girth on that.
You're happy with that? It's a nice fish,
Look
isn't
at
it?
it's got something else in him, look.
I'll have to get the net for Andrews. Oh yeah. Got a big fish of salmon, Kevin.
After carefully removing remains of the salmon from the pike's throat, we were amazed to find that it was well over half as long as its captor. Typically, pike will eat fish of up to half their own length. You may have noticed that we seldom weigh our pike, since the exact weight is not too important to us, and we give priority to getting them back into the river as soon as possible. But this was Hilly's largest pike to date, so it was carefully
You
weighed,
have to read the balance.
minus its
Right.
breakfast.
Is that 20 then?
Yeah.
Yeah, bang on.
20 is this.
Marvellous.
While all the excitement was going on, Andrew landed a fish of his own, although not quite as big as Steve's.
Is you ready to go yet?
No, it's recovering nicely, but
I'll take a water recovery, don't I?
you're just going to go up.
She goes.
Still there.
Still there, she's gone.
Yeah. There she goes.
To finish off, we returned to our November session and the best fish of the day. The serenity of the countryside, eh?
Unlike most stillwater piking, fishing a river is an active pastime. We only spend a few minutes at most in each swim. If you don't get a take on an artificial within a few casts, it's probably best to move on, or to try a natural bait if you've got one. It often pays to search the water with a lure anyway, just to find out where the pike are. As a rule, mind, the natural fished slowly will be more productive of big pike.
Having had his customary half-dozen casts, Mike suggested that I should have a crack with the bait. It can pay to let the bait drift right into the marginal cover. Big, confident fish will often take the float away with scarcely a ripple.
Right, that looks a decent fish.
One problem encountered when fishing against rafts of weed and leaves is that the weed often gets wrapped around the line. Another good reason for using 15-pound line.
Taking a bit of line, Steve.
He is.
Have you seen it yet?
Not yet, no, it's still a fair way down. Good 4 feet down yet. Now it's going upstream. Oh yes, it's a nice fish. Back to raft again.
Not a bad fish, then.
Back that drag off the track.
You want the John Wilson chuckle for
I
that?
think so. You got the net, Andrew?
There you are.
Look at all the line going through that weed.
Christ.
It doesn't get wrapped around
Is that
his
what they
head.
call having it under control, Steve? That is it? Well, them barbless trebles seem to stick in all right, don't they?
Oh, yeah, once they're in, as long as you can keep the fish under control, you know. Which you can see I'm doing at the moment.
It just shows you that the spoon's not all as effective. I mean, I put it past that one 3 or 4 times, I suppose. Is this where it goes in the net this time?
Well, hopefully. A ton of weed as well, though, isn't it?
That's the tricky part.
You could put the rod up, Andrew, and walk back with it.
Walking back.
I assume the fish is in the net, yeah? Well, you got a fair bit of weed anyway, whatever the fish is.
There we go. A bit bigger than the last one,
Just a bit.
That's so.
isn't it?
20?
It could be, yeah. As wide as that. As wide as that from there, isn't it? Right. Turn him over to the trebles.
It's pretty good river pike fishing really, isn't it?
Yeah, no question. But they're fat this time of year as well, aren't they?
Yeah, superb. And they're not quite as sort of sluggish as they tend to be in February.
Oh,
and that.
no.
You could do with your forceps there, Stephen.
So,
look.
yeah. Just in the corner of the scissors there.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Only one treble.
To show them little trebles are perfectly adequate, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
In fact, they're more than adequate. Oh, shall I pull them up for you?
Can you?
Let me have a
Sec. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, just nick on that. That's more than enough though. Isn't it?
Fantastic.
Lovely fish.
That's a nice one for the album.
Let's pop her back.
Don't fall in.
River piking, like any other form of fishing, can have its blanks and off days. But even then, it's great to be on the riverbank. But when the pike are feeling cooperative, river piking can produce spectacular action.
All right then. Well, did you enjoy that then, Andrew?
Yeah. Can we come again tomorrow?
Well, not about tomorrow, maybe next week.
You forgot the camera!